That if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, another alarming case of political debanking, this time by the woke workers at Monzo, who, after refusing to give an account to the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, have been exposed for vile attacks against the Conservatives, including calling them, quote, ugly and evil. I'll deal with the latest case of our financial institutions lurching disturbingly to the hard left in my digest next, and then my superstar panel weigh-in tonight. I'm joined by Christine Hamilton, Adam Brooks and Matthew Laza. Plus, after shocking customers with their mural of a trans man bearing double breast removal scars, should Costa Coffee be facing a boycott? Peter Tatchell, Bushra Sheikh and Debbie Hayton debate that in The Clash shortly. Elsewhere tonight, after swirling rumours of a split in brands, Sussex, Harry and Meghan have suddenly put on a united front against cyberbullying.
Thank you for doing everything that you do. Our kids especially are incredibly grateful.
They don't know it yet.
They don't know it yet.
But they will.
So good to talk to you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Take
one.
Care, bye.
Bye.
Do you notice she even disagreed with him there? Just saying. But to analyse what is now a rare public display from the couple, Lady Victoria Harvey and Ingrid Stewart join me live in the studio. And with Meghan missing from the baby shower of so-called bestie Serena Williams, has the Duchess started to lose her friends in the States? Royal author Angela Levin with her exclusive insight. Plus, as a member of Just Stop Oil is caught boasting that their eco-terrorism has shaped Labour's climate policy, is a vote for Starmer a vote for the ruinous green agenda? Deputy Tory Chairman Lee Anderson joins me for the latest edition of The Real World. As ever, tomorrow's front page is hot off the press and, just wait for it, comedy legend Jim Davidson to give his outrageous take on Donald Trump, Amanda Holden versus Andrew Tate, and a former Prime Minister potentially entering the I'm a Celebrity jungle. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. You're watching GB News, Britain's news channel. You are not going to believe what these staff members at Monzo have said about Conservative voters, about my colleague Jacob Rees-Mogg, about J.K. Rowling. I'm going to play it to you in a moment. Remember, this is via official bank communication channels. I think it proves that this rot in the woke banks is far broader than this Nigel Farage versus Coots scandal. So that's coming up in a digest straight after the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening to you. Well, the Fire Brigades Union has labelled the Bibby Stockholm migrant barge a potential death trap and requested an urgent meeting with the Home Secretary about overcrowding and fire exit concerns. The FBU's Assistant General Secretary says it's a cruel and reckless approach to the welfare of asylum seekers. Well, a government source has told GB News that Labour and the unions are trying to block the use of the vessel to house asylum seekers, calling their attempts a betrayal of the country and of the British people. It now could be next week before any migrants are moved to the vessel, which is currently moored off Portland in Dorset. In the United States, former President Donald Trump, who's facing 4 new criminal charges, will appear in court in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. He's accused of conspiring to defraud the US by preventing Congress from certifying Joe Biden's election victory in 2020. This is the 3rd time in 4 months he's been charged as he campaigns to regain the presidency. Well, Donald Trump's son, Donald Jr., spoke to Nigel Farage this evening on GB News, and he questioned the timing of the indictment.
You know, I don't believe any of this has anything to do with January 6th. If it did, and if January 6th was everything that they said, why, Nigel, did they wait 2.5 years to charge him? I mean, the people that were there that did those, they were charged that day.
Donald Trump Jr. Now, James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary, says a group of British nationals have safely left Niger following a military coup there last week. They're currently aboard a French flight which is heading for Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. European countries have all been evacuating their citizens from the West African nation after the army overthrew the president. The Foreign Secretary saying it's only a very small number of Brits that remain in country and they are receiving consular support. Now, a man has been found guilty of murdering his 10-month-old stepson. Jacob Crouch was found dead in his cot at his Derbyshire home in December 2020. He had suffered 39 rib fractures, he had 19 visible bruises and several internal injuries. Craig Crouch has been convicted of murder and 3 counts of child cruelty. The baby's mother, Gemma Barton, was also found guilty of child cruelty and causing or allowing her son's death. Now, a preliminary study has found that AI tools may be able to help in the fight against breast cancer. Researchers have found that computer-aided detection could spot signs of the disease in mammograms at a similar rate to radiologists. In the study, AI-supported screening detected more cancer cases than standard screening without generating a higher number of false positives. The NHS is now looking into how it can use the technology in its breast screening programme. On TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app, this is GB News.
More horrifying but predictable evidence today that Britain's woke banks are rotten to their core, making hateful judgments on ordinary Brits based on their political views. It has been revealed that employees at Monzo, by no coincidence the bank that refused to give an account to Jeremy Hunt before he became Chancellor, made a series of vile attacks on Conservative voters, GB News presenter Jacob Rees-Mogg and even women's rights campaigner J.K. Rowling. A Monzo whistleblower has today provided to the Daily Telegraph the astonishing pile of bile spewing from the official Slack message accounts of staff at the bank, which has over 7 million customers, remember. In October last year, one Monzo staff member wrote of the former Conservative minister and my colleague here at GB News, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Maybe Jacob Rees-Mogg could do the human race a favour and stay out of politics forever. Doubt you could replace him with anyone who is more of an archetypal Tory.
The next day, the Monzo staff member went even further by branding Conservatives as evil and ugly. In May, Monzo workers openly celebrated the Tories' losses in the local elections. Responding to a derogatory meme, staff members said this.
What's great about this GIF is the Tories have lost Maidenhead.
Tory losses in the local elections. We love to see it.
Then a financial crime investigator for the bank weighed in, adding this.
I'm just gutted that my own local council didn't have an election.
In January, an engineer said this.
I hope I'm wrong, though, and we managed to topple the Tories for good. I'm not sure anyone can survive under the Tories for much longer.
And in April last year, the controversial gender wars also found their way into the official discussions by Monzo staff. A senior manager slammed the gay rights charity, the LGB Alliance, for promoting hate speech, and then added,
the Tories are evidently swaying towards arguments put forward by TERFs.
Amid increasingly negative discussion about trans-exclusionary radical feminists, staff members began to attack the Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling as vile, while another last August said this.
J.K. Rowling is a TERF. So grim.
Emergence of the Monzo conversations, hot on the heels of the release of the vile Coots dossier proving Nigel Farage was axed for his political views, makes it clear these sorts of conversations within our banks are by no means isolated incidents. Banks are now pushing hard left views on a regular basis, and their staff feel it is acceptable to express hatred towards those who are on the centre-right or hold small c conservative values, which, let me remind you, are shared by the majority of the country. This makes it hard to believe they do not impact decisions on account closures. For the sake of British democracy, that must change. But to respond now, my superstar panel, the author and broadcaster Christine Hamilton, the businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the former Labour advisor Matthew Laza. Now, Christine Hamilton, what shocks me so much about these conversations is how brazen these bank staff members are. I mean, these were not conversations, by the way, that were taking place at the water cooler or in the toilets. This was on the official communication channel Slack used by the bank for official business.
It just shows how arrogant and overconfident they are. It never crossed their mind that somebody, one of their number, might think, hang on a minute, I don't like this. Like most people, I'd never heard of this bank, but apparently it's got quite a few...
It's one of these new trendy ones.
One of these new trendy banks, and it's used by young people. It's appalling. And what is odd is that, unless I have just missed something, none of the people who seem to be targeted are the lefties, are they? They're
no.
Gina Miller, but that was her political party, and she's not exactly a lefty, is she?
But on the Slack channels, no left people.
No lefties. It's exactly.
All right-wing politics.
But the other thing that worries me hugely about this, I mean, the whole thing is so disturbing. It's like 1984. It isn't just the banks. It's the BBC. Mm-hmm. It's the church. Mm-hmm. Our own Calvin Robinson was deplatformed and cultured by the Church of England. It's the civil servants. And who are the people they're targeting? They're targeting the Brexiteers. They're targeting Priti Patel and Dominic Raab, etc., etc. So it is creeping throughout society, and the banks just seem to be the people at the moment who are putting their heads above the parapet very unwillingly. It's unbelievable. And if every single person in the land isn't incensed about this and very worried indeed, then they need their head examining.
Well, Adam Brooks, I am convinced that this is spreading well beyond the banks. We only know about this going on at the banks because of the great work of Nigel Farage. But, Adam, you've got a theory that actually a lot of this hatred is coming from Labour politicians like Angela Rayner.
Well, you've got to remember, over the last sort of 6-7 years since Brexit as well, we had David Lammy that basically likened Brexit figureheads to the Nazis. We had Angela Rayner that said, what did she say?
Tories
she
are
said,
scum.
Tories are scum, homophobic, racist and misogynistic. Right?
She did apologise.
Well, she said
once
it.
she was caught, once the recording was leaked, she apologised.
John McDonnell said, hound any Tories you see in the streets. Now, this sort of rhetoric, it filters out via the left-wing press, and this woke hysteria has infected a whole generation and more. And this generation are now starting to work in our banks, in our schools, in our universities, in society. You know, it's a worry. And things like this, banks should be 100% politically neutral.
Well, Adam disagrees. Matthew, you disagree with Adam on that, right?
Well, look, no, I don't think the banks need to be 100% politically neutral as institutions. The Co-op Bank, for example, has had an ethical policy, which is clearly a political stance for decades. Exactly. No, absolutely. I don't think the banks need to be neutral in terms of what their policy stand is. I don't think they should be targeting people because of their politics.
So what about
there's a difference
messages from Monzo?
Well, I mean, to be fair, Slack is kind of the equivalent of the water cooler. They're probably all working remotely from their Stoke Newington and trendy East London pads. But you know, I'm actually a Monzo customer.
That's allowed.
So I'm hoping I'm not going to be kicked out after. I am very trendy, Christy.
They want you because you're on the list.
But I'm slightly worried that they're spending their time doing this when they should be running the bank. And, I mean, I don't think they should be targeting individuals. I don't think the language is appropriate. But secondly, haven't they got a job to do?
Well, this is what a spokeswoman for Monzo said today. Our ambition is to make money, work for everyone, which means that we're politically neutral and personal views play no part in our policies or decision-making, including eligibility for a Monzo account. Any suggestion otherwise is categorically untrue. These cherry-picked comments are personal views of a handful of employees in informal conversations, and it is wrong to portray them as the views of Monzo or our thousands of other employees. But that's not what the whistleblower said, Christy.
Well, and have they said, if they have, I've missed it, why they debanked or wouldn't take Jeremy Hunt? Admittedly, it was before he was the Chancellor, but he was a very high-profile Tory MP and has been, and a minister has been for a very long time. Why did they not accept him?
Jeremy Hunt's... What I find about that is quite peculiar is Jeremy Hunt is worth millions, is one of the richest Tory MPs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, but I'm very surprised he's trying to go with Monzo, which is the Millennials Bank, which is the cheap and cheerful bank for millennials.
You say that these conversations took place on...
It's a kind of message thing.
No, the water cooler conversations are people chatting amongst themselves. They're not written down. These messages were written down. Somebody has...
They were stupid in it, and it's worrying that there's a culture where people think this is part of their day job. Yeah. But I don't mind. But my point is that it's OK for banks. I'm glad that banks march in pride. I'm glad that banks show their support for minority communities. But as you say, Christine, it's important that's out in the open. We can all see it, and that's what's wrong with this.
Let's also remember that being against conservative values is a trendy thing for some of these youngsters to do.
Of course.
They think it makes them look virtuous. They think it makes them look great, I bet when they go home, they say totally different things.
Well, the other thing that occurred to me today is that just on NatWest, our good old friends at NatWest, is that when I first joined the Labour Party, we used to boycott Royal Bank of Scotland, which is now NatWest. They merged and they've taken the NatWest name because they used to give an overdraft to the Tories. People have short memories in terms of people who were within these companies themselves.
But this is the woke takeover of our institution.
But Adam's right, because the people who are now working at Monzo and probably banking with Monzo are the ones who have been schooled in this throughout their education.
Of course, they may just believe it.
So let's blame the left-wing press.
It's only going to get worse.
Well, it always used to
in
be
the years to come.
That if you weren't a socialist by the time you were 20, you'd got no heart, and if you weren't a Tory by the time you were 30, you'd got no head. So maybe they'll grow out of it, but I doubt it.
Let's hope, Christine.
So those were the days.
Matthew, Lars and my superstar panel. Back together and with me all night, but still to come, Deputy Chair of the Conservative Party, Lee Anderson, gets his gnashers stuck into damning new proof that Labour is doing the bidding for Just Stop Oil. He'll also give his take on the Tory-hating wokesters at Monzo Bank, the Red Wall Rottweiler, here shortly. But up next, in The Clash, the debate that's divided a nation. Should Costa Coffee face a boycott over its trans top surgery cartoon? Trans teacher Debbie Hayton, human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell and social commentator Bush Rashake, all in the studio to brew over this shortly. Dan at gbnews.com if you want to weigh in. Vote in our poll at GBNews on Twitter. The results and The Clash straight after the break.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Redwall Rottweiler Lee Anderson and top royal author Angela Levin both coming up this hour. But time now for the clash. And the controversy over Costa Coffee's graphic trans mural on the side of a drinks van continues to grow, with critics saying the cartoon of a trans man bearing double breast removal scars glorifies irreversible surgery. Helen Joyce of human rights group Sex Matters blasted it's disgustingly irresponsible of Costa to suggest, sell, even glorify mental distress, bodily dissociation and self-harm among teenage girls. Fuming customers have continued tearing into Costa on social media and insisted the stunt would become its own Bud Light moment. So what do you think? Should Costa face a boycott over this cartoon? Dan at gbnews.com. Vote in our poll at gbnews on Twitter. But to clash on this now, trans teacher and journalist Debbie Hayton, the human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, and social commentator Bushra Sheikh. So, Debbie, where do you stand on this as a trans woman? Is this empowering for
people like you?
Well, it's not empowering. I transitioned to hide back in society, not to be put up on billboards and to glorify surgeries. I'm really concerned. I'm a trans woman, but I'm also a teacher. And it really does concern me, the impact that this has on young children who are very impressionable. They look at cartoon characters and they look at something which is, let's face it, it's an irreversible surgery which is being celebrated. I think that's wrong and I think it's dangerous.
So what? It's more serious than just putting something like this up on a billboard. It needs to be thought about much more. It shouldn't be glorified.
Well, it should. It's a cartoon nature of it, so it's appealing to children. What do children think when they see this? Do they see this as the answer to their problems? All sorts of problems. We don't know. But there's some corporations which are behaving extremely irresponsibly.
So Peter, that's Debbie, a trans woman, a teacher who has that view. You disagree with her strongly. Why?
Trans people are part of our society. It's quite right that they should be recognised and they should have visibility. This is a simple cartoon. It's not an encouragement or an incitement to become trans. It's simply a celebration that trans people exist. And it's absolutely absurd to suggest that young people seeing this cartoon are going to rush out and want trans surgery. On top of that, trans surgery is not available to children in this country. Trans surgery often takes 10 to 15 years from the first appointment, so most people undergoing that surgery only do so as mature, responsible adults in their late 20s or 30s. So this is a storm in a coffee cup.
Bushra, are you with Peter or Debbie on this?
I'm going to have to ally with Debbie on this because I genuinely just believe, firstly, that Costa Coffee should not get involved in stuff like this. They should do what they do. I mean, they don't even do nice coffee anyway, but just stick to, like, advertising that is not to do with this stuff because genuinely, Peter, things are incremental with young kids. So it's not that you're going to have one billboard and it's not going to affect them. It's going to affect them by having it. Costa Coffee are not doing the right thing. For me, you know, they should just take it down and focus on what they do and make their coffee better. This stuff is dangerous. It's dangerous on young children. And, you know, I'm just going to put it out there. This is about mental health. This is about mental health. I believe that transgenderism is a mental health crisis. And if we're going to have billboards by Costa Coffee, we're just going to enable this stuff to happen in our society.
It was one cartoon on one van, and there was absolutely no evidence. There's no evidence it's caused harm.
This is happening everywhere, though. You can look at the video games now, where young kids are able to choose mastectomy stars when they are putting their character together. You've seen what Doc Martens are doing. This is a trend. Woke companies think that this makes their brand more palatable. Debbie, how do you feel about Bushra saying that this is actually a mental health issue and we should be careful trying to simplify it and advertise it?
My own personal experience was a mental health issue. 12 years ago, I had a mental health crisis. Whether transition was the answer, I don't know. I sometimes tell people, if I knew in 2011 what I know now, I probably wouldn't have transitioned.
Really? Really?
Wow.
And why do you think that now?
Well, because we can't find satisfaction and security in changing our bodies. What finally made me comfortable with myself was self-acceptance and self-understanding, not surgery.
And that's something that you get by finding peace psychologically.
Yeah, I'm really sympathetic to Debbie, and I totally respect your point of view, but the research shows that about 98% of trans people who have gender reassignment surgery are totally happy with it, they're content, their lives are improved, their mental and physical health is better. So 98% a vote of confidence in this surgery. That's a very high vote of confidence.
Bushra, there's a lot of expectation that those figures will change over the next few years because of this huge wave of young females at school who have been encouraged down the path of puberty blockers and that sort of thing early. I mean, look, I've had wonderful people like Carabelle on this show who have detransitioned and have spoken about the absolute trauma of being put through this process when really they weren't ready to do so.
And this is what we're speaking about, and I want to say it to Peter. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we cannot celebrate body mutilation. That's what that billboard shows. And Debbie, you know, you're absolutely right. Combining the mental health with the young women, we have to understand that this is a serious
Okay,
issue.
so you boycott Costa over this?
Absolutely boycott them, get them where it hurts. Companies are not going to change and stop doing this unless they find that their
And
sales
Bud Light
are
learned
declining.
the hard way, didn't they, in the States?
Totally.
But no young women are able to get gender reassignment surgery. You know, from the time they want to first have an appointment, it takes an average of 3 to 5 years
but look at what was
to
going
wait
on
for a
at the
gender identity
Tavistock,
clinic.
Peter. Look at what was going on at the Tavistock.
Yes, but they have to wait.
on.
They have to wait for years and years and years.
But you must accept that many of the early treatments offered at clinics like the Tavistock, which has now been shut down by the government because of its shoddy practices, you must accept that that put some young women into this irreversible process when they didn't need to.
But they couldn't go through with it because it takes years and years and years.
Now,
of
presumably you
appointments.
don't boycott Costa, you say buy even more coffee from
No, I
Costa.
just think they are reflecting the diversity of our
So
society.
you celebrate them.
And this cartoon is not in isolation. Costa has been celebrating women, black and ethnic minorities, lesbian and gay people, disabled people. They're doing a great job.
Debbie, where do you stand on the boycott?
I don't like mobs of any sort, but I'll be drinking my coffee elsewhere.
OK, brilliant stuff. Debbie Hayden, Peter Tatchell, Bush Shake. Thank you all so much. This is what Costa said, because, you know, we always give you both sides of the argument here on GB News. At Costa Coffee, we celebrate the diversity of our customers, team members and partners. We want everyone that interacts with us to experience the inclusive environment that we create, to encourage people to feel welcomed, free and unashamedly proud to be themselves. So who are you with on this? Should Costa Coffee face a boycott? Mary, via the email, writes, yes. Costa should be boycotted for making light of a very serious condition and a very serious medical procedure. From Dale, this is via Twitter. I put no to most boycotts because if the business suffers, it won't be the executives that get the chop, it will be the low-paid workers who get laid off. And Paul writes, the answer is yes. However, it would be best led by the franchisees who are being shafted by their head office. And your verdict is now in. 44% of you agree that Costa Coffee should be boycotted over their trans top surgery cartoon. 56% of you say they should not. So it was a split decision tonight. Now, top royal insiders Ingrid Stewart and Lady Victoria Harvey weigh in on Harry and Meghan's latest public foray before comedy legend Jim Davidson arrives a bit later on. Oh my goodness, you know he's going to be outrageous. First though, the weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. I'm Greg Dewhurst. Well, it stays unsettled over the next few days, though there will be increasing amounts of sunny spells around on Thursday. It'll just feel a little warmer. Today's low pressure moves out the way. We're in a northerly airstream the next few days, but then the next area of low pressure soon moving in Friday night and into Saturday to give some wet and windy weather again for all of us. This evening, as I mentioned, today's low pulling away, so the rain's starting to become lighter, few and further between, but overnight it stays generally quite cloudy. Further showers moving in across northern Scotland into Northern Ireland, and temperatures generally staying in double figures across the board due to that northerly wind and a lot of cloud around. So fairly cloudy start to Thursday morning, but there will be some sunny spells, particularly through the central part of the UK. And through the day, this northerly flow will start to feed showers in, and at the same time we'll see some showers bubble up as we move into the afternoon. There will be some bright or sunny spells, and some places, particularly in the east, will stay dry right through the day. And as a result, it will just feel a little warmer, temperatures up to around 23 degrees towards the southeast, a little bit cooler around some north-facing coasts. Into Friday itself, generally again a cloudy start, though showers perhaps more focused through the day across eastern areas. A ridge of high pressure building in for a short time will mean drier weather to the west, and here some sunny spells developing. Temperatures again lifting into the low 20s before wet and windy weather moves in for Saturday, then clears for Sunday. Temperatures around average.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Coming up, Meghan Markle was nowhere to be seen at celeb pal Serena Williams' luxury baby shower just days after a bust-up with the Beckhams. So, can her new top talent agency repair her battered reputation? Prince Harry's biographer Angela Levin with exclusive insight shortly. But next, Red Wall Rottweiler Lee Anderson is unmuzzled and off the leash as he takes aim at Labour's cosy relationship with Just Stop Oil, the woke bankers exposed for nasty Tory attacks, and Boris Johnson swapping the snakes of Westminster, maybe, although I think not, for those in the celebrity jungle. Back soon.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From Midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know,
Please stop.
Should I just shut up? Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go. There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. But
and action.
Sergeant Reed, my superstar panel, they're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Royal author Angela Levin on the way, but first, the real world with Lee Anderson. And as we know, Slippery Starmer has accepted £1.5 million from green energy boss Dale Vince, the man bankrolling Just Stop Oil's campaign of eco-terrorism. But could the connection between the Labour Party and Just Stop Oil run even deeper? Listen to this from one of the eco-loons, Larch Maxey, speaking at a group meeting last month.
So in October, very reluctantly, we blocked the roads around Parliament every day for 32 days straight, October into November. And that suddenly cut through. We were suddenly headline news. Labour suddenly shifted and said, we hate Just Stop Oil. Oh, but by the way, we're going to stop new oil, coal and gas. That's how it goes.
So, Lee, we've suspected it for a long time, haven't we? But they're in cahoots. They're working in cahoots, these eco-terrorists in the Labour Party.
Well, it looks like, Dan, to be honest, that the Labour Party are now the political wing, the official political wing of Just Stop Oil. And let's not forget, Dan, that it's the same Labour Party and the same slippery Starmer as describing that were cozying up to BLM not that long ago. You know, I was there when we had the riots on Whitehall. Yeah, on their knees. We had Labour MPs going out there, you know, with the protesters. And we had the leaders, the two leaders of the Labour Party, Angela and Sir Keir Starmer, taking their knees, cozying up to BLM. Now, you know, now they're cozying up and are in bed, it appears, with Just Stop Oil. And also they're taking their orders from some of these real left-wing communist union leaders. So, you know, fair warning to anybody that's thinking of voting Labour at the next election, because I tell you what, the country will be run by the unions, Just Stop Oil, and they're just a smidgen of BLM in there. So it's very, very frightening times indeed.
Yeah, no, indeed. Now, look, while, of course, Lee, there would be no new oil and gas under a Labour government, you can certainly expect lots of cancellations because public libraries and the Labour-run Calderdale Council have hidden books by Kathleen Stock, Helen Joyce and other women's rights campaigners who have come to blows with the extreme trans lobby. So Joyce has since reacted. She told the Daily Telegraph they are little tin pot censors. The council claimed no books had been banned, but added that following consideration of a formal grievance internally, a number of the titles were placed in the lending store. So, Lee, this is censorship, isn't it? Pure and simple.
It is censorship, Dan, and basically what they're doing, it's the left again. They're too scared to debate. They think they don't necessarily think they're right in the argument, but what they will always do is try and hide the evidence. Now, I understand that the Labour councillor who's in charge of this library, this is somebody who actually attended a pro-Palestine rally, who supported some terrorists at one stage. I mean, these are the people that, I think Adam said it earlier, they're infiltrating every walk of life in this country, whether that be the civil service, whether that be even the police force. We've seen a lot of wokery in some of the police force, you know, all throughout society. These type of people, I don't know where they come from, to be honest. I don't know where it started from, but it's frightening, Dan. And these people pose a bigger risk to this country than anything we've seen. You know, forget COVID, forget the lockdowns. These people pose a real threat to our society and our way of life.
I know, because they even made your poor son transition into being a vegetarian. I mean, that must have been a disappointment as a father, Lee. It must have been.
Well, I'm glad you saw that clip. I mean, actually,
it's gone viral. Who hasn't seen it?
Well, it went viral. I mean, he was the first vegetarian ever in our family. I've learned to live with it. I've adapted. But you know, I still love the boy. You know, in fact, I'm even having vegetarian feelings myself. But that's, I think,
don't go there.
That'll get me over that, yeah.
Do not go there, because there was the study this week, Lee, that says actually your hips will snap, you know, much earlier as a man if you go vegetarian. Now, look, Lee, it was after it was revealed that Jeremy Hunt, you know, the Chancellor, was refused a banking account, Monzo. Have you seen these absolutely shocking, vile attacks coming against the Tory party, against Jacob Rees-Mogg, against J.K. Rowling, all on the bank's official Slack platform? I mean, Lee, they even branded Conservatives like you evil and ugly. So they clearly don't have a good set of eyes either. But, I mean, this is really shocking stuff from Monzo, isn't it?
I mean, ugly maybe, but I'm definitely not evil. But I will say this, Dan, if they're putting these sort of messages, these words on a message board at work, that just proves they are not bothered who actually sees these messages. So there must be a culture at this workplace where they can just get away with this scot-free. And this is just not the people putting it on the message board. If they're not frit of their bosses, their gaffers, then this must go right to the top. And who the hell do they think they are slagging? They're not just having a go at me, they're having a go at my parents, my friends, my family, you know, and all the people in Ashfield that voted Conservative for the first time at the last election. This is absolute disgrace. And I don't know why they do it, because do they think that saying these sort of nasty, horrible things are going to get these first-time Tory voters back to Labour and vote that they want to vote? Because if they do, they must be absolutely mad.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And I just think, look, if this is what they're saying on their official Slack channels, imagine what they're saying in the meetings and everything, and it clearly has something to do with the debanking. But look, Lee, your colleague, or your ex-colleague now, because I don't think he's actually got the Tory whip anymore, Matt Hancock, made a bit of a fool of himself on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. But as a result of that, ITV desperate to sign another Tory. So they offered what was believed to be the highest fee in the show's history to Boris Johnson. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the money, so he quite wisely turned them down. But now, Lee, we're told they're targeting the former Prime Minister Liz Truss, the former Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab, and the former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng. I mean, should they be tempted, Lee? And what about you? What about you? Would you consider going into the jungle?
Well, I mean, if I did go into the jungle, I would definitely go vegetarian, Dan, because I've seen some of that muck that they actually eat. But no, I'm of a mind that, being an MP, it takes a lot of your time up. And there's no way you can afford to be away from your job for 4 weeks. I just don't get it. Your constituents, my phone starts ringing at 6 o'clock in the morning and they don't stop till 10 o'clock at night. So I don't know how you can actually go away. You can maybe get a week or 10 days, sometimes a fortnight away on holiday. But a 4 week is you just cannot do it. And I don't think colleagues will do it. It's very tempting. It's big money. They might not stand next time. I understand that sort of stuff. But you know what? If you'd have put on that ballot paper at the general election, vote for me. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to go on Celebrity Jungle. They wouldn't have got elected. As simple as that. And that's the sort of thing that's in the back of my mind. Yeah, I was disappointed in Matt going on it. He's made a few quid. Actually, he gave £10,000 to his local charity, which is very big of him. But that was his decision. He's lost the whip, and it's cost him his political career. So that's what it's going to cost you, Dan.
£10,000 out of 400,000. Look, I think Kwasi and Raab and Liz Truss are great people, so I hope they don't do it. I hope they don't do it, because all ITV is going to do is chew them up, use them for entertainment, and then spit them out, and all three of them are much better than that. But Lee Anderson, I'm glad to hear you're not going into the jungle either. Thank you so much, Lee. And The Real World back 7 o'clock Friday night here on GB News. But coming up, the Bibi Stockholm migrant barge had its first arrivals delayed over safety fears, but Rishi Sunak promises it will be open for business imminently. But is the 500 capacity vessel going to prove much use anyway when we have tens of thousands crossing the channel each year? My superstar panel anchor down on this shortly. But next, after already being shown the red card by the Beckhams, why was Meghan Markle absent from best friend Serena Williams' luxury baby shower? Top royal biographer Angela Levin investigates whether Meghan's new top talent agency can turn her fortunes around straight after this.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Jim Davidson's wild take on the woke week is coming up soon, but first, distinguished royal biographer and author Angela Levin. Now, true friends can be hard to come by, which is a lesson Meghan Markle appears to be learning the hard way over in the States. Just days after this report of the fallout between the runaway royals and David and Victoria Beckham, the Duchess nowhere to be seen at Serena Williams' star-studded baby shower this weekend, despite a close 13-year friendship with the Tennessees, who actually hosted Meghan's own baby shower for Archie. Remember that in 2019. Perhaps Serena felt she'd done enough for Meghan already, having appeared as her debut guest on the failed podcast Archetypes last August.
You know, obviously I'm retiring professionally, but it's also an evolution. I'm doing more business things, and I really want to expand my family. And, you know, I've been putting it off for so long. And as a woman, there's only so long you can put that off. And, you know, other men out there can continue to play, but I love being a woman, and I loved being pregnant. You know, I was one of those.
I know you loved
you know,
it.
that was like, oh, I love this. Nothing's wrong.
and with
I'm
the
so
belly
happy.
chain.
Like, I was literally one of those women.
So, Angela, this is a very odd one, because these two were incredibly close. She planned the whole New York baby shower. Remember that big drama?
Six-figure sum.
Yeah, in 2019. Then she has her own, and Meghan's either not invited or doesn't turn up. What's going on? What are you hearing?
Well, I think that when somebody becomes a mother, they're always quite shocked about how they feel. But she said that she found it the most important and the most demanding thing in her life. She's absolutely loved it. And she's a very, very hands-on mother.
This is Serena.
Yes, this is Serena. And I think she has seen in Meghan someone who's not quite like that Meghan is still very much thinking about herself and what she's going to do and how it's going to be and how she can use people to move on and climb up the ladder. And I think that she's found that she's a taker rather than a giver.
So do you think it's possible that there's actually been a falling out between them? Because, of course, we're hearing of lots of falling out between the Sussexes and big celebrities, the Beckhams, the Obamas, Oprah, the Kardashians. I mean, the list goes on, but this would be really surprising given how tight she was with Serena.
Yes, well, she was tight for quite a while, but then she said that actually she's not a close friend, she's a companion. And I think she was moving out of that, you know, quite a while back. And you see how somebody grows and is. And if she looks at our own royal family, you know, don't forget she would see Catherine at Wimbledon and see how she's behaved and what she's done for the tennis, and thinks actually this woman isn't quite right, and she's still hammering away at the royal family. And, you know, if you want to be an A1 person, you have to be careful who you mix with, otherwise you lose out the people who are around you.
Well, that was also why it was so telling that Harry and Meghan weren't at this big Beckham football event unveiling Lionel Messi, but it feels like there it was actually the Beckhams who ended up pulling the plug
Yes,
because
that's
they
what
were
they
so
say.
annoyed at the claims from the Sussexes that they'd been leaking stories about them.
Yes, but I wonder if Meghan would say, oh, I didn't have time, I was too busy, I was doing something else. She would never actually, I don't think, look at something and analyse it and see what's maybe she's doing wrong. I think it's all about how it works. And I think maybe Serena has found with her new husband and family life that she doesn't want to get involved with all the moaning and the groaning.
And of course, lots of these celebrities still want a proximity to the royal family, especially
Yes.
William and Kate,
Yes.
who carry an incredible cachet
Yes.
in Hollywood, and they know that William and Kate aren't going to be as open to it if they are close friends with Harry and
Yeah,
Meghan.
somebody just said that Princess Catherine is the epitome of what you imagine of an English princess. Meghan doesn't come up to that, but, you know, you can see how Catherine behaves and how she looks, and I think that's right. And, of course, they're always going to win, Catherine and William, because he's heir to the throne. He hasn't sort of opted out and is not doing very much. He's actually doing a lot also for the climate change and things that...
Of course.
And working very hard, which is very important in Hollywood. They like people who work hard, don't give up. And we've seen that actually Meghan and Harry haven't been working very hard, which is why Spotify stopped the deal.
Well, we finally saw them together today. This was the first time in a
Yes.
very, very long time. In fact, since May's Women of Vision Awards, there it was. This was a video that they made about cyberbullying. I'll play it later in the show. But what's also interesting, Angela, is that there have been reports in Germany today that Meghan will attend the Invictus Games in Germany in September alongside Harry. Is this an attempt by Meghan and Harry to show actually that their marriage is okay? Because, you know, there's been a lot of rumours that they're taking time apart.
I found it incredibly annoying because the Invictus Games is something that is really Harry's. He's built quite a lot of work into that and he cares about it. He was in the army, so he is somebody who's like that. Why doesn't she let him go and actually do it himself? She's going to look after the whole thing and he's going to just give a final speech. Why is she doing that? I think that it's actually quite the opposite of actually looking as if they're close together. Meghan, her PR suggests that she's got umpteen wonderful things waiting for her. But in fact, where are these wonderful things that are waiting for her? And why is she trashing on Harry's debts? Maybe
Do you
he
think
wants her
they're
there.
worried about the rumours that the marriage isn't as strong as it has been?
That's why we've seen the things today in the paper about them talking about young people and calling them up without them knowing it, although there was a cameraman in there taking pictures. You know, they must think we're all daft. And I thought it was so phony. And I noticed that Meghan looked down the whole time. She didn't actually have any eye contact with Harry, and it was all sort of giggly and frothy. And I think that their PR is saying to them, look, you know, you've got to show that you really care. We've got to do very well on this. But it doesn't work. It's just a nonsense, really. There was Meghan in her beige, and she said one of the things she hated about being a member of the royal family was that she had to wear beige so that she would she would fit in. She wasn't allowed to wear bright colours.
There, when
because
she
didn't fit
gets
in.
the choice, there she is in beige.
In beige.
Very good point, Angela Levin. Thank you so much. We'll speak next week.
Yes.
But coming up, socialite Lady Victoria Harvey and top royal journalist Ingrid Stewart give their expert take on Meghan and Harry's latest public show of unity after the release of this new charity video. But are their smiles hiding rumoured troubles? They're going to investigate for us shortly. First, though, in the media buzz, Rishi Sunak's migrant barge has been dramatically torpedoed by safety-faring unions. The PM vows he won't wave the white flag just yet, but will small vessels like the Bibi Stockholm prove just a drop in the ocean when migrants are coming in by their thousands? My superstar panel and tomorrow's first newspaper front pages hot off the press. We're back soon.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. I'm Greg Dewhurst. Well, it stays unsettled over the next few days, though there will be increasing amounts of sunny spells around on Thursday. It'll just feel a little warmer. Today's low pressure moves out the way. We're in a northerly airstream the next few days, but then the next area of low pressure soon moving in Friday night and into Saturday to give some wet and windy weather again for all of us. This evening, as I mentioned, today's low pulling away, so the rain's starting to become lighter, few and further between, but overnight it stays generally quite cloudy. Further showers moving in across northern Scotland into Northern Ireland, and temperatures generally staying in double figures across the board due to that northerly wind and a lot of cloud around. So fairly cloudy start to Thursday morning, but there will be some sunny spells, particularly through the central part of the UK. And through the day, this northerly flow will start to feed showers in, and at the same time we'll see some showers bubble up as we move into the afternoon. There will be some bright or sunny spells, and some places, particularly in the east, will stay dry right through the day, and as a result it will just feel a little warmer. Temperatures up to around 23 degrees towards the southeast, a little bit cooler around some north-facing coasts. Into Friday itself, generally again a cloudy start, though showers perhaps more focused through the day across eastern areas. A ridge of high pressure building in for a short time will mean drier weather to the west, and here some sunny spells developing. Temperatures again lifting into the low 20s before wet and windy weather moves in for Saturday, then clears for Sunday. Temperatures around average.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, Rishi Sunak refuses to go down with his ship. The Prime Minister pledges the Bibi Stockholm migrant barge will imminently take arrivals, despite plans being torpedoed over safety fears.
Has the Bibi Stockholm been such a shambles?
It hasn't. No, it hasn't.
Will Bibi Stockholm be in operation next week?
Yeah, the Bibi Stockholm will be in operation as soon as it's passed all the checks and regulations, as soon as possible.
But as a government source blasts Labour for betraying Britain and its people by scuppering the Stockholm, are 500 capacity barges already doomed to fail when thousands of migrants just keep on coming? That's the big debate with my superstar panel next. And tonight, I'm joined by Christine Hamilton, Adam Brooks, and Matthew Laza. Also tonight, grinning Harry and Meghan are plain sailing in Montecito with a rare new public video.
Thank you for doing everything that you do. Our kids especially are incredibly grateful.
They don't know it yet.
They don't know it yet.
But they will.
So good to talk to you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Take
one.
care. Bye.
Bye.
But is their sickly sweet performance just another PR move to quash growing marriage trouble rumours? Royal insiders Lady Victoria Harvey and Ingrid Stewart dissect the Sussexes' latest public foray shortly. Meanwhile, should we let cocaine users and thieves to ease the load on our prisons and courts? The Ministry of Justice thinks so, despite just 5.7% of crimes being solved last year. And Strictly star Anton Dubé stuns the nation with a tear-jerking admission.
He got stabbed. I've never said this out loud before.
That full emotional revelation from tonight coming up in the media buzz. And lightening the mood in uncancelled British comedy legend, our favourite entertainer Jim Davidson explores whether Boris Johnson was right to turn down I'm a Celebrity and whether Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng should tackle the jungle together. Find out what the nasty woke warriors at Monzo Bank said about our very own Jacob Rees-Mogg when I crown tonight's greatest Britain and Union Jackass 2. We'll have tomorrow's newspaper front pages mere moments away as well. First, though, the news headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you, and good evening to you. Our top story from the GB newsroom. The Fire Brigades Union has labelled the Bibby Stockholm migrant barge a potential death trap and requested an urgent meeting with the Home Secretary about overcrowding and fire exit concerns. The FBU's Assistant General Secretary saying it's a cruel and reckless approach to the welfare of asylum seekers. A government source told GB News that Labour and the unions are trying to block the use of the vessel to house asylum seekers, calling their attempts a betrayal of the country and the British people. Well, now it could be next week before any migrants are moved to the vessel, which is currently moored off Portland in Dorset. In the United States, former President Donald Trump, who's facing 4 new criminal charges, will appear in court in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. He's accused of conspiring to defraud the U.S. by preventing Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory after the 2020 election. It's the 3rd time in 4 months he's been charged as he campaigns to regain the presidency. Mr. Trump's son, Donald Jr., spoke to Nigel Farage earlier, and he questioned the timing of the indictment.
You know, I don't believe any of this has anything to do with January 6th. If it did, and if January 6th was everything that they said, why, Nigel, did they wait 2.5 years to charge him? I mean, the people that were there that did those, they were charged that day.
Let's turn our attentions to West Africa now. And James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, is saying a group of British nationals have now safely left Niger following a military coup in the country last week. They're currently on board a French flight heading for Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. European countries have been evacuating their citizens from Niger after the army overthrew the president. The Foreign Office saying only a very small number of Brits remain in the country. They are receiving support, we understand. Now, a man has been found guilty of murdering his 10-month-old stepson. Jacob Crouch was found dead in his cot at his home in December 2020 in Derbyshire. He had suffered 39 fractures to his ribs and had 19 visible bruises and several internal injuries as well. Craig Crouch has been convicted of murder and 3 counts of child cruelty. The baby's mother, Gemma Barton, was also found guilty of child cruelty and causing or allowing her son's death. A preliminary study has found AI tools may be able to help in the fight against breast cancer. Researchers found computer-aided detection could spot signs of the disease in mammograms at a similar rate to 2 radiologists. In the study, AI-supported screening detected more cancer cases than standard screening without generating a higher number of false positives. The NHS is now looking into how it can use the technology in its breast screening programme. You're with GB News across the UK on your TV, in your car, on your digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Back now to Dan.
Tomorrow's news tonight in our Media Buzz. First papers in. Election won't be Sunak. That's the headline in the Metro. We saw it very briefly, but I will hold it up for you. That's after the PM hinted that there might not be a vote until January 2025. Can we believe that? I'll also show you the Trump conspiracy, it says. And there we go. OK. My superstar panel back with me now, the author and broadcaster Christine Hamilton, the businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. Now, government sources furiously accuse Labour of betraying Britain today by deliberately scuppering the launch of the Bibby Stockholm migrant barge off Dorset. The first 50 migrants were due to board in Portland yesterday, but the Fire Brigades Union raised serious fire safety concerns. And with migrants now even refusing to board, with some calling it a death trap, one government insider blasted Labour and its union backers are gleeful at the idea of housing migrants in hotels because it suits their political games. They don't want to stop the boats because they've also calculated it's to their gain. It's a betrayal of our country and the British people. Now, Sunak denied the Bibby Stockholm had been a shambles when quizzed this morning and refused to say it would be in operation next week.
Has the Bibby Stockholm been such a shambles?
It hasn't. No, it hasn't.
Will Bibby Stockholm be in operation next week?
Yeah, the Bibby Stockholm will be in operation as soon as it's passed all the checks and regulations, as soon as possible. I'm going to keep going on this. I'm determined to fix it. I'm going to throw everything at it. Look, there's an array of people who want me to fail. Right, whether that's the Labour Party who voted 70 times against the bill, whether that's these dodgy lawyers, a subset, a minority of lawyers, as the Daily Mail has rightly exposed, whether it's these criminal gangs, there's lots of people who are lined up to try and stop me, but I'm going to keep going until we stop the boats.
So with more than 12,000 migrants crossing the Channel already this year, are these 500 capacity barges like the Bibby Stockholm doomed to fail, Christine Hamilton?
Well, it's a drop in the ocean, isn't it? Or a drop in the Channel. It really is, 500 people. I'm not surprised the fire people are kicking up because this barge is designed to take 220 people and they're going to have 500 people plus 40 staff. So
plus there'll be troublemakers on board, let's just be honest.
Precisely, there will be troublemakers on board. What I would like to see them do is load everybody onto the barge and then tow it over to France and send them all back. But really, it is like bailing out a leaky vessel with a colander in a storm. It really is. What we need to do is get out of the ECHR. We need to get out of the UN Convention on Human Rights. We need to, in the immortal words, we need to take back control,
because he says he's going to do it.
Laws.
But how? How are you going to do it, Rishi? The rhetoric is great, but you've got to make some of these bold calls.
It's just, I mean, it's peanuts on the deck. It really is. It's ridiculous. I mean, yes, I want him to succeed. I want Rwanda to succeed. If the migrants are saying they don't want to go on this boat, well, then clearly it's it's slightly working. But it's not enough.
Yeah, but Adam Brooks, given we know how many of these economic migrants, illegals, are criminals too, there has to be a very serious risk now of arson, because they will be wanting to prove a political point.
Look, we've had hotels suddenly going up in flames, and the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about that, you know. But there's been trouble, there's been stabbings, there's been rapes at these migrant centres. At the end of the day, again, I'm sick of saying it because some people just don't understand. To have thousands of undocumented, unchecked males who we know nothing about is dangerous for this country, for our communities. You know, parents are rightfully protesting. These are not far-right people. These are parents that are worried what's near their children, near their schools. These barges are a PR stunt by the government. We would need 50 to make a dent in the numbers that we've got.
They can't be corralled on the barges either. They will have to be free to go wherever they want to, wander into Weymouth and all
wherever
round.
they want to be.
Yeah.
Matthew Laza, what do you make of the Conservative Party accusing Labour of loving this today, of really egging on the unions to try and make it impossible for these barges to launch?
Yeah, absolutely desperate, pathetic on the part of Rishi Sunak there. Let's remind ourselves that these barges were a Tory initiative, and remember it was barges in the plural, but 2 of them have been towed back to Sweden and never even going to be used because the Tories will blame anybody but themselves for the chaos that we have in the system, and it's a chaos for which they're responsible, and it's for chaos which they failed to sort out, and it's why we need a change of government.
Well, how is Labour going to stop these dinghies coming across?
Well,
they will
absolutely.
Labour is going to throw...
No, it's not. No, because what the Prime Minister didn't mention is that Labour voted for a new cross-border police unit with the French to tackle gangs, a new deal with Europe so we can return more people in controlled legal routes.
Not going to work, not going to work.
Well, actually, that's not true, Dan, because those of us can remember that under the last Labour government there was a similar crisis and David Blunkett did a deal with the French and the number of people crossing the channel illegally came down.
They take our money and they don't do anything.
And above all, we need fast-track decisions. We need fast-track decisions, and
because our civil service just stamp anyone that says, "Oh, I'm gay, I'm persecuted at home."
They don't do that because at the moment they don't even get the paperwork in front of them. At the moment, only 5% are processed. I mean, never mind say yes or no.
This is very bad now. It's very bad. I've called this a national emergency since the end of 2021. But let's not delude ourselves of how much worse it will be under a Labour government that throws...
It will be sorted under a Labour government.
Oh, Matthew, please.
Well, please remember that, screenshot that. It will be sorted under a Labour government. I mean,
we have their whole families over.
Back to that.
That's a promise as well.
All these measures that you talked about, they are all the wrong end of the horse. We need to be stopping the people coming.
That's what it's to do. That's what it's to do, Christine.
If we started towing these boats back to France,
exactly.
If that happened and Rishi did this overnight, they would go probably 5 to 10 points up in the polls immediately.
But look, guys, I've said that it is possible to have a turn-back policy for the last 2.5 years.
Or an island.
But what we need is a Conservative leader with
Australia's
the balls.
done it. Why can't we follow Australia's?
The Tories voted against the removal and return of terror suspects. It's part of Labour's plan to tackle boats.
We must have an island where we can take them to.
Of course we do.
Jersey.
The north of
Of course we do. Look, there's loads of things we could do. The problem is he hasn't done enough. He's putting all of his eggs in a couple of baskets. I'm with you, Christine. I hope it works. The signs are not good. Now, look, breaking tonight, Strictly Come Dancing star Anton Dubik has made the shocking revelation that he was stabbed as a young child by his alcoholic father. Speaking in the last hour to his former Strictly partner, Kate Garraway, Anton fought back tears, recalling a traumatic Boxing Day when he was stabbed by his dad, who is now dead, in the stomach and leg.
I've never spoken about this before in my entire life, actually. I wanted a new start and a new beginning. I mean, I ended up in hospital for 3 days, but it was...
Did you?
Yeah.
Why? What happened?
I got stabbed. I've never said this out loud.
Wow. Really shocking. Awful beginnings, and now the king of ballroom. So hats off to Anton Dubik there, right? Really
absolutely.
shocking, Christine.
Wow.
Unbelievable, yes, absolutely.
What a great story. Christine Hamilton, Adam Brooks, Matthew Laza, stand by, because coming up, is Britain lurching towards becoming a lawless state like California? As cops are told to let off drug users and thieves with cautions in a bid to tackle packed prisons and courts, critics fear the move will simply fuel spiralling crime. We'll debate that in the Media Buzz shortly. The next, Harry and Meghan were all fun and florix in a new rare public video today, but admitted claims their performance was all a bit too OTT. Is this simply the latest Sussex attempt to squash growing marriage rumours? Royal insiders Lady Victoria Harvey and Ingrid Seward with exclusive information on this straight after the break.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From Midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody. We've got
Adventure.
etc.
That's the whole point.
And action.
Sergeant Green, my superstar panel, they're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Jim Davidson with the latest on why Justin Trudeau has broken up with his wife after 18 years later this hour. First, though, in their only public appearance together since May, when their account of a near-catastrophic car chase through Manhattan was questioned by authorities and even their own taxi driver, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex projected a united front in an awkward video released today. They were filmed congratulating youngsters on receiving grants from the first Responsible Technology Youth Power Fund that their Archwell Foundation helps to finance. Watch.
Congratulations, this is great, and we're so happy to have you as part of this team.
Really, thank you for all the work you're doing. It's huge. It's making an enormous impact.
Thank you for doing everything that you do. Our kids especially are incredibly grateful.
They don't know it yet.
They don't know it yet.
But they will.
So good to talk to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Take
one.
care, bye.
Bye.
So all smiles there, but not every public appearance this year has been such a success, with awkward incidents like this. Remember at the NBA basketball back in April, fueling rumours that maybe things are not all good. Well, I'm delighted to welcome to the studio Royal Insiders Lady Victoria Harvey and Ingrid Stewart, the editor-in-chief of Majesty magazine. So, Ingrid, it feels like this video, I mean, I've got the Daily Mail front page here, has been released to silence the critics who are saying the marriage is in trouble. What was your take on it?
Well, my take on it is that they need to be high profile. They also love being in control. They have to be in control well, Meghan has to be in control, and Harry does what he's told, and they're in control of their own PR and their own media, and it's their own company that are involved with this. And
So they had control over this video?
They had total control over this video. They all look very beautiful. It's in their garden, and they talk to these young kids and say how wonderful they are. So it's all sweet and chirpy, but it's totally controlled, and I think rather unnatural. And they need the boost. I think they need the boost more for their work than for their marriage, because I understand, and of course my sources are excellent,
always,
that the marriage is fine. But I mean, that's what I understand.
But the professional side of things,
the professional side of their life is not so good.
Because they've lost a lot of money.
If they're not seen in Hollywood, people forget you very quickly.
Lady V, the thing I couldn't understand about this video, though, is that, remember, Ingrid's right, they had full control over it. It wasn't live, it was edited. And the moment that they chose to release, Meghan was still questioning what Harry said. He said, oh, our kids are really grateful for this. And she said, effectively, well, no, they're not, because they don't know about it yet.
I mean, I think with Meghan, she likes to always have the last word. It's always got to be about her. She has to finish his sentences. You know, so I don't know. I found it very contrived. I found it very fake. You know, it was a bit...
Not very attractive.
No, and I just... They probably filmed it a while ago.
Well, yeah, so you have a theory that this is not a new video.
I think it's a PR stunt. It is just to get them some better press, because obviously it hasn't been great for them recently, and I think they probably filmed it a while ago and they've just kind of fished it out, because if things are not going great and they're not together, they want to make it look like they are together.
I mean, the thing that I don't understand, Ingrid, is that when are we actually going to get some meat on the bones about what this couple really want to deliver to the world? Because today, it's saccharine sweet nonsense, you know, saying thanks to some people who claim that they didn't know they were going to speak to the Sussexes, even though they were being
there was a
filmed.
camera there.
There's no mission, is there? There's no overarching cause. There's nothing that they're really trying to achieve.
Well, I mean, also they speak in gobbledygook.
Yeah.
It's really hard to understand what they're doing.
Always. Right.
I mean, I don't
It's
really...
mumbo jumbo. It's Californian mumbo jumbo.
I've read this,
They're
and
in
I've read it to
their own
Victoria.
little world.
We all read it, and we still don't really know what it's about.
No.
So we don't know what they do.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're doing.
Well, and can I just say, if this is genuinely initiative about cyberbullying, though, the people who they have to go after... Now, let me tell you, and I really mean this, because I've experienced it myself a lot. The people who they have to go after is this vile group of internet trolls called the Sussex Squad, who are their supporters. And they spread disinformation, vile lies. They are literally, the Sussex Squad are the most vile, vicious spreaders of disinformation and hate and illegal material on all of the internet. And that's their supporters. So I don't know where they get off talking about cyberbullying, Victoria. I don't.
Well, it sounds like they need to kind of bring it closer to home then, if that is the case. That is sort of one of the reasons that I don't... Not really on Twitter, because it is like the dungeons of, you know...
This Sussex Squad, I think... I understand, because I've also been a victim of it, that they're quite a small group.
Yes.
It could be. I mean, they feel like...
What they do is they have
a lot of them,
hundreds and hundreds of accounts controlled by individuals to push a particular message, often one that is started by that odd little bloke, Omid Scobie. And I just think Harry and Meghan need to stop talking about cyberbullying, because it's their fans and their fanatics. So until they clean up what's going on with their own supporters, I think it should be ignored.
Little people sitting in a dark room.
Well, let's say that they don't appear to understand that, though. They've never talked about the Sussex.
No, never. Because they love them, because they go after their enemies. Remember what they said about Camilla. Remember what they say about Kate. They spread terrible rumours about William online all the time. And I just find it really ironic, because can they really keep going on saying, oh, we're going to try and clean up the internet when your own supporters are doing this? And when it comes to Harry, by the way, as well, I think he does know what's going on, Ingrid, because remember, he has this blind Twitter account where he follows everything. So he's not out there officially as Prince Harry on Twitter, but we know he has an account to find out what's going on.
With it, isn't
Right.
he?
Well,
Which is part of his big problem.
They're that obsessed by everything that they do that they're obviously going to have secret accounts, you know, because they are desperate
want to know
to
what
be in
people
the
are
press.
saying.
They are desperate to be the next big story. I mean, obviously this story is like they've just thrown us out there like they were going to, you know, like the car chase and all these other things they do. And then it backfires on them because it ends up looking like it's been orchestrated. It
But
doesn't
Ingrid,
look
you
natural.
are hearing the marriage is fine.
I am hearing that the marriage is fine. But then again, that could be another smokescreen, except the person that told me, I think, would probably know very well.
And Lady V, what about you? Do you think the marriage is OK?
No. I mean, I think it's rocky. Definitely rocky.
Lady Victoria Harvey. Ingrid Seward, my royal insiders. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Thank you both for being here tonight. Now, comedy legend Jim Davidson's locked and loaded with plenty of gags when he tackles Tori Imer's celebrity rumours in Uncancelled. First, though, the weather.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. I'm Greg Dewhurst. Well, it stays unsettled over the next few days, though there will be increasing amounts of sunny spells around on Thursday. It'll just feel a little warmer. Today's low pressure moves out the way. We're in a northerly airstream the next few days, but then the next area of low pressure soon moving in Friday night and into Saturday to give some wet and windy weather again for all of us. This evening, as I mentioned, today's low pulling away, so the rain's starting to become lighter, few and further between, but overnight it stays generally quite cloudy. Further showers moving in across northern Scotland into Northern Ireland, and temperatures generally staying in double figures across the board due to that northerly wind and a lot of cloud around. So fairly cloudy start to Thursday morning, but there will be some sunny spells, particularly through the central part of the UK. And through the day, this northerly flow will start to feed showers in, and at the same time we'll see some showers bubble up as we move into the afternoon. There will be some bright or sunny spells, and some places, particularly in the east, will stay dry right through the day. And as a result, it'll just feel a little warmer, temperatures up to around 23 degrees towards the southeast, a little bit cooler around some north-facing coasts. Into Friday itself, generally again a cloudy start, though showers perhaps more focused through the day across eastern areas. A ridge of high pressure building in for a short time will mean drier weather to the west, and here some sunny spells developing. Temperatures again lifting into the low 20s before wet and windy weather moves in for Saturday, then clears for Sunday. Temperatures around average.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Coming up in Uncancelled, they're used to dealing with snakes, but comedy legend Jim Davidson probes whether Boris, Liz Truss or even Kwasi Kwarteng should swap one viper's nest for another by leaving Westminster for the I'm a Celeb jungle. But first, in the media buzz, are the Ministry of Justice off their heads for encouraging cops to let off cocaine users and thieves with slaps on the wrist? Or will the plan help reduce our prisons and court backlogs? My superstar panel geared up to debate that in just a few minutes' time.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle.
Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Time to return to tomorrow's news tonight in our Media Buzz. More front pages are in. The Guardian leads with Donald Trump's day in court tomorrow night. The former US president was, of course, indicted on 4 charges relating to the attack on the US Capitol on January the 6th, 2021. We will bring you what goes on live during tomorrow night's show. It's going to be unmissable. Another historic moment. The Daily Mirror leads with Rishi Sunak's claims that strikes are to blame for the record-long NHS waiting list. A medic tells the paper that the PM's claim is false. Leading tomorrow's Daily Telegraph, Welsh Secretary David T.C. Davies is facing a police inquiry over an allegedly racist campaign leaflet about a proposed traveller site in his community. And the paper also has a picture there of Justin Trudeau and his soon-to-be former wife, Sophie. We'll be discussing that in just a moment with Jim Davidson. First, though, tonight's superstar panel, the author and broadcaster Christine Hamilton, the businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. They say crime pays, and critics reckon that will certainly ring true under controversial new plans to give drug dealers and thieves cautions rather than going to court. Police are today being given a new list of offences that allow officers to deal with so-called low-level and first-time criminals with just a verbal telling off. It includes a slap on the wrist for possession of drugs such as Class B cannabis and Class A cocaine. The Ministry of Justice idea is under consultation but has regardless fuelled accusations that Britain is fast becoming a soft touch. It comes as damning figures show just 5% of all crimes, 5.7% of all crimes were solved last year, with our prisons already jam-packed and court systems facing record backlogs. So, Adam Brooks, is it really the right idea to let off drug dealers, drug criminals? Because I feel like that is such a risky move.
Look, drug dealers know the risks that they take when they deal drugs. I probably know more than most. I've had bars, clubs, pubs all my adult life. I've had run-ins with gangs. I've had run-ins with drug dealers. The thought that they know they're going to get off is only going to make it worse. You know, a small drug dealer will become a big drug dealer. That brings violence, that brings chaos to an area, that brings more addicts, that brings, you know, more people that are desperate for those drugs. That means more thieves in our shops. It's more... To let drug dealers think that they can just start this up, they know the risks anyway. But if they think that they're going to be let off first time, it's going to create more of them. Look, you know, I couldn't hate drugs any more than anyone else, than most. My father was murdered by drug dealers. So I've got a personal reason to hate drugs
your life.
And hate cocaine and that, you know, I detest it. This is such a bad signal to our youth, to our children. You know, I've got a 14-year-old boy. You know, suddenly he's going to know boys that are going to start dealing drugs in a few years, because it happens around 16, 17.
And now, if he knows that they just get off.
You know, if they know that he just gets off, you know, my boy's too sensible to do that. But that boy down the road that needs the new trainers, that needs that new bike or whatever, you know, he might think, you know, this weekend I might sell drugs. It's a bad message. And I feel like our society is just crumbling. We need to be doubling down on drugs and crime, not letting them off, Dan.
Matthew Lazar, you say, though, the war on drugs has failed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence is that from the United States is very clear that the harder you are, the less effect it has.
So we just let folk off?
No, I mean, look, I think that the current sentencing guidelines are part of the crisis there is in the justice system. I totally agree with you, Adam, that our justice system is in complete crisis. With the backlogs in our criminal courts are extraordinary. We've had 10 years of not enough police officers on the streets. That is improving a bit now. It's still fewer per head than when Labour were in power. But I mean, you know, I think drugs policy is such a difficult debate, but I do think it's one that politicians should tackle, and they're always afraid to tackle. There are examples where different approaches have been taken, like in Portugal, where the impact on crime has been...
I can't bear us going down that path, and I really do worry under Labour, actually, that we're going to see this soft-touch drug policy come in.
They might as well decriminalise drugs, which a lot of people advocate, and they say I'm not. I'm not saying that, but that is one argument. Decriminalise drugs, and you will then take a lot of the power out of the crime wave, because a lot of crime is powered by drugs. But I mean, the system is completely broken, and we've got apparently there are 30,000 roughly neighbourhood police neighbourhoods, and between a half and a third of those, not a single burglary, not a single vehicle, bike or personal theft has been solved. Not one. I mean, what the heck are the police doing? And we haven't built any more prisons. They say they can't. If they send people to prison any minute now, we've got roughly 1,000 spaces left. Any minute now, the graph is going to go.
But that's probably why they're saying it, so they don't have to build.
Remember, prison is hugely expensive as well.
But the government's done nothing. Successive governments have sat on their backsides. They haven't built prisons. They haven't built nuclear power stations. They haven't built reservoirs.
How many MPs in our parliament do you think are on cocaine?
Oh, well.
How many in our police force?
I have no idea. 90%?
No.
Hopefully not that high, Christy.
This drug...
Maybe 90% of the Labour Party.
This drug is everywhere, Dan, and it turns people into monsters.
Yeah. I know. No.
I could not be more anti-drugs. I could not be more anti-drugs. This should not be a policy even be considered under a Conservative government. It's madness. Final word, Christine.
Well, just a low-level crime. We need to give people a little bit of public humiliation. Put them into extraordinary costumes, make them sweep the streets, make them do something. You can't just put people behind the bars.
Not for drug dealers.
I'm talking about low-level crime. Drugs is not
but that's what they're saying. That drug is a low-level crime, and I totally agree with that. Now, look, on a much lighter note, you already know about Colin Rooney and Rebecca Vardy's extraordinary Wagatha Christie saga, right? But have you heard about the new cake gate? No, not the Boris Johnson one. This week, there's been a celebrity whodunit. It started with a local bakery owner called Rebecca Severs, who lashed out after she was asked by a celeb who she left unnamed to make luxury birthday cakes for free in exchange for social media and magazine publicity. Now, in quite a sensational turn, the Daily Mail has revealed the alleged demanding diva to be the Coronation Street star, really nice woman, I think, Catherine Tilsley. Earlier today, she took to Instagram to hit back at the claims.
Cakegate? What? Utterly bizarre. Don't really know what to say. I mean, I hope the cake lady got the exposure she was craving. Whilst I've got journalists knocking on my front door while my kids are playing in the front room. Dead nice, that, babes. Thanks for coming.
So I think maybe a lot of celebrities now are going to think twice before they get their advisors to demand lots of stuff for free. It is an interesting one, though, because I know lots of businesses do give out free material to influencers because it's more effective than advertising.
This is a small business, and they were asked to make one great big cake and a load of cupcakes.
100 cups?
100, but the story slightly varies, because one story I have heard subsequently is that, oh, no, we were going to pay her for all her expenses.
And I had it when I had a bar called New Bar back in the day, and it was where everyone came, footballers, you know, soap stars. the amount of times that they would say, look, I'll do a tweet or I'll do something if you give me a bottle of vodka.
And would you do it?
No, I didn't back then. I wouldn't do it, you know.
Okay. Good on you. Matthew Laza, Adam Brooks, Christine Hamilton, do stand by. Because the woke bang that slagged off our very own Jacob Rees-Mogg is up for a gong in tonight's Greatest Britain. And Uni and Jackass, surely you're not going to believe what these Monzo staff members said about the GB News staff. But next, in Uncancelled, British comedy legend Jim Davidson reacts to Andrew Tate's attacks on Amanda Holden's bikini snaps. Plus, does he have any words of wisdom for Canadian PM Justin Trudeau, who has announced he's splitting from his wife of 18 years? There's going to be laughs guaranteed in just 2 minutes' time because Britain's best entertainer is unleashed. Don't go anywhere.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And welcome back tonight to the king of comedy, Britain's best entertainer, Jim Davidson. And look, fans of our beloved Boris Johnson may be crestfallen to hear that the former PM will not be appearing on this year's series of I'm a Celebrity, with the spokesperson for Bojo quashing rumours that he's going to enter the jungle. But after former Health Secretary Matt Hancock became a ratings hit on last year's show, ITV bosses, desperate to try and shame another former PM, Liz Truss. They want her, but if they don't get her, they want Dominic Raab, Sajid Javid or Kwasi Kwarteng. But Jim, Boris has made the right decision to turn this down, right? And don't you think the others should just say, no, I'm not taking your money, ITV, because what you're going to do is ruin my credibility and my reputation?
Do you know what, Dan? I bet they've not even seen the programme, especially when Matt Hancock went on it. I can't imagine them setting their alarm clocks to sit up and watch him. No, I don't think there's any truth in it at all. When I was going in the Big Brother house, I won it, by the way. Biggest ratings I've ever had.
What year was that? Remind me, what year was that?
Anyway, 1980, I forget. I think it was 2013. Or 2014.
I remember that series.
And I fell in love with Dappy. I loved him.
Guy.
Dappy, great guy. He talked like that. Anyway, I think that this is ridiculous. They just make it up. Apparently, they play these games so everyone wants to see who's going to be in it. If Boris goes in it, there'll be no one happier than me. I think he's great. He makes me laugh. But you've got to imagine the rest of the contestants alongside him, because there'll be no more money left in the budget to give everybody else. You know, they'll have to have Philip Schofield or someone sitting on a rock next to it.
Now, look, Britain's Got Talent judge Amanda Holden got a lot of folk hot under the collar this week, Jim, as Sky History released, now keep calm, these steamy nude shots to promote her new show, Sex, A Bonkers History. Now, this comes just days, though, after Amanda drew criticism from Andrew Tate after posing in her bikini on Twitter. He told her there was no need for the saucy snap. So, Jim, are you team Tate or team Holden on this one?
Well, I don't know who Tate is. I know he's got a gallery somewhere next to a river in London, but I don't know who he is. I've looked him up and he's in a bit of trouble. But, do you know, what did he say that was that bad? I mean, he only said, come on, you're a mother, you're a grown-up, you know, why do you need to do this? I can see what he means. Now, I've met Amanda. She is fantastic. And she looks quite good if you squint your eyes, you know, at a distance.
She looks amazing, come on.
Well, she does look amazing for her age, but why would you keep walking around in a bikini? It's like that Marlene Class. You never see her in a frock or anything. They're always walking around. And are they airbrushed, these pictures, or does she have herself ironed before she gets in them? I think she looks great. Now, I'd like to see her in the jungle. Yes, don't you worry about that. That was that Marlene Class as well. I ended up in a snow trip with her, you know. I jumped out of a helicopter in Norway and went up to my neck. She jumped out after me and landed on top of me, and we couldn't move in the snow. There you go. Here's a bit of gossip for you.
You lucky man.
The trouble is, though, she didn't have a bikini on. She had a great big waterproof camouflage top and a bulletproof vest.
No bikini there. Now, look, Jim, Costa, goodness, Costa, hasn't been a good week for them, facing this massive boycott after running this cartoon of a trans man with a double mastectomy scar. This was on the side of a Costa Express van. What do you make of this, Jim? And is it right that they face a boycott? Like, is this Costa's Bud Light moment?
I think it might be a Bud Light moment for them, because the Bud Light thing was quite funny and we all laughed at that person. But this is just not good, showing a mastectomy. There's people watching this show, Dan, that have suffered mastectomies, and of course it affects all the family and everybody. And I mean, we did. Camera should pan down, see if he's got them Dr. Martin rainbow transvestment boots on as well. I mean, have we gone mad? I don't go in those coffee bars because I don't particularly like coffee. But if I did like it, I wouldn't have any of it. No, I think it's time to fight back. We've had enough of this woke and cancel culture and accusation culture. We don't want any more of it. We need to be grown-ups.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Coffee.
Couldn't agree more. Now, look, Donald Trump, he's going to be indicted for a third time since leaving office. This is all going to take place tomorrow night, Jim, while we're on air. So it's going to be a blockbuster show from 9 p.m. But his son, Donald Trump Jr., went on US TV today and made it abundantly clear why he believes his dad is being targeted.
Father's right. Why did they wait 2.5 years? You know why? Because he's leading in the polls. Because they're afraid of him becoming president and dismantling the Uni Party, dismantling the deep state. I don't believe in this level of coincidence anymore. It's truly sick. We're living in a banana republic, and, you know, there's no other way about it.
Jim, it's difficult to argue with that, isn't it? The banana republic line. I mean, really? They want the guy leading in the polls for the Republican nomination to be running for president behind bars? I mean, this is so wrong.
It's all a bit funny, but they're different. Just because they speak a similar language to us over there, it doesn't mean they're anything like us. So we find it slightly odd. True. I quite like Trump. We need to get him over here. There wouldn't be them people spraying orange stuff everywhere. Mind you, it looks as if he's been got at by them dust-off oil protesters, because he is a bit orange, isn't he? Yeah, he has been sprayed up. But if you have a look what's going on in America, why don't they leave old Trump alone, get Biden some pills in a Zimmer frame to take, and tell him to have a little lie down in a darkened room and try and sort out their homelessness and their drug problems. We're all sitting here in this country talking about should we relax the drug laws, and look what's going on in San Francisco, in New York. It is shocking. And to be honest, you know, I've had a shady past, but I don't like people who take drugs. Police, customs officers, people like that. But I think if you're talking about drugs and whether they should be decriminalised, you've got to think of the addict that's walking the street, the person that legislation would kill overnight if he could get his hands on some of that stuff.
Couldn't agree more. I'm so opposed to it. Now, look, breaking tonight, Jim, this was a surprise. Canada's woke Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, announcing that he's going to be splitting with his wife, Sophie, after 18 years of marriage. So in a statement posted on Instagram, Trudeau wrote, "Hi, everyone. Sophie and I would like to share the fact that after many meaningful and difficult conversations, we have made the decision to separate. As always, we remain a close family with deep love and respect for each other and for everything we have built and will continue to build. For the well-being of our children, we ask that you respect our and their privacy." But that was a surprise, wasn't it, Jim, given he remains in power? Not often you actually see leaders breaking up with their partners when they are running the country.
Well, how old is Mrs. Trudeau? Is she in that zone that I talk about on stage? Maybe she wants something else. Being the First Lady of Canada is not enough. There's always a reason to get divorced, I imagine. And she went on about women should be free. Women are never free. You try getting one free. It's ridiculous. You know, I could have had 6 more wives with what I paid for these last 5. And, you know, that's a typical wokey letter, isn't it? People say, I've split up with a wife, but we're still friends. No, we're not still friends. I don't talk to her. If I was friends, I'd still be with her. We put something on Twitter, we should say, saying we hate each other's guts, can't stand each other, we're off. Please don't phone us again.
Well,
That's
I think there is much more to this story than meets the eye. And Mr. Trudeau, not a great
Trudeau.
guy.
I'm single now.
Oh,
she might have a few kids.
Yeah. You've got to get over there. She's probably a little bit too woke for you, though. Jim Davidson, Britain's best entertainer. Thank you so much, Jim. Brilliant as ever. But it's time now to reveal tonight's greatest Britain and Union jackass. My superstar panel return. Christine Hamilton, who is your greatest Britain nominee, please?
My greatest Britain is Kemi Badenoch. At last, a government minister, a senior one, is standing up for common sense in all this net zero nonsense. She has said that this ridiculous business that in January next year, which is only 5 months away, 22% of vehicles must be zero emissions, 100% electric, which is absolutely ludicrous. So here's to Kemi, hear it for Kemi, for standing up at last, and let's hope the whole government follows suit and realise that she is the one talking sense.
Adam Brooks, your nominee.
Mine is Piers Corbyn, someone who I probably have very little in common with, but he's fighting the fight to save cash and against this mission creep for a cashless society.
And this was in a video. Let's have a look at it. I haven't seen it yet.
I'm offering exactly the right amount of money here on the help desk. So you people take that money paid by legal tender. No, don't break it down. Do not break it down. I'm paid by legal tender.
Yeah, I think he's got a point there. Matthew!
You've obviously never met Piers Corbyn. If you had, you wouldn't be nominated.
I have met.
Mine is Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham, who's maintaining his paws on the region's equivalent of ULEZ until there's a proper plan in place to support.
OK, well, I'm going to go with Christine Hamilton and Kemi Badenoch for standing up against the deranged march to net zero. I hope more cabinet ministers do the same. Christine, quickly, your union jackass nominee.
Gosh, very quickly, well, maybe a double whammy. It is, of course, Monzo the Bank for banking people, including
and for saying this terrible thing about Jacob Rees-Mogg.
It's appalling. How dare...
Maybe Jacob Rees-Mogg could do the human race a favour and stay out of politics forever. Doubt you could replace him with anyone who is more of an archetypal Tory.
Adam Brooks, your nominee.
My nominee is Dr. Martins, the bootmaker, for celebrating people mutilating themselves, just like Costa Coffee did. This mission creep has to stop. It's very sinister.
And Matthew Laza, your union jackass nominee.
I was going to pick Nadine Dorries again because the Prime Minister's agreed with me today, but I'll give you a choice. The Duke of Northumberland, one of Britain's richest men, who wants to flatten, to build over some lovely allotments in a nature haven to build a horrible office block, and as one protester said, to line his pockets. So he's my baddie of the day.
Well, Christine Hamilton's got the double tonight because the union jackasses Monzo Bank, those leaked messages show just how woke our financial institutions are. Christine Hamilton, Adam Brooks, Matthew Laza, thank you so much for your company. I'm back again tomorrow night from 9 p.m. We'll cover that live Trump indictment. Headliners next, though. Good night.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. I'm Greg Dewhurst. Well, it stays unsettled over the next few days, though there will be increasing amounts of sunny spells around on Thursday. It'll just feel a little warmer. Today's low pressure moves out the way. We're in a northerly airstream the next few days, but then the next area of low pressure soon moving in Friday night and into Saturday to give some wet and windy weather again for all of us. This evening, as I mentioned, today's low pulling away, so the rain's starting to become lighter, few and further between, but overnight it stays generally quite cloudy. Further showers moving in across northern Scotland into Northern Ireland, and temperatures generally staying in double figures across the board due to that northerly wind and a lot of cloud around. So fairly cloudy start to Thursday morning, but there will be some sunny spells, particularly through the central part of the UK. And through the day, this northerly flow will start to feed showers in, and at the same time we'll see some showers bubble up as we move into the afternoon. There will be some bright or sunny spells, and some places, particularly in the east, will stay dry right through the day, and as a result it'll just feel a little warmer, temperatures up to around 23 degrees towards the southeast, a little bit cooler around some north-facing coasts. Into Friday itself, generally again a cloudy start, though showers perhaps more focused through the day across eastern areas. A ridge of high pressure building in for a short time will mean drier weather to the west, and here some sunny spells developing. Temperatures again lifting into the low 20s before wet and windy weather moves in for Saturday, then clears for Sunday. Temperatures around average.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.